What is innovation?
Customer needs change every day. You got to be able to meet them.
To be able to spot human talent and to be a good leader.
Innovators dream of things that never were and ask why not.
Creators that continue to be challenging, you have to keep creating.
Make people's lives easier.
I feel where curiosity and talent meet each other.
Future. It's recognizing the future.
Reimagine what is possible.
Innovation to me means creating something entirely different.
Leaders from Silicon Valley, China, and all over the world.
Welcome to Innovation Dialogue. And this time's dialogue is a special panel discussion on the Cupertino's Vallco shopping mall. So community leaders gather together in Dingding TV, discuss about the future of Cupertino Vallco shopping mall. For more information and episode, you can get on www.dingding.tv to watch all the episodes. And you can also post your comment, and we're going to host another discussion in the future. So last time on last section, we had our Mayor Rod Sings and shared his hope to the community and the Vallco Mall, what Vallco Mall can do for our community. Actually, Joe and Joan representing UBC. So, Joan, do you have any comment on this? Yeah, use the microphone.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I also feel honored to be as part of such an erudite panel on this subject. I want to talk about 2 or 3 different things, and they kind of circle around each other. We've already heard mention of traffic and some traffic solutions, perhaps where walkers and cyclists might be able to go under a road or over a road to be able to get easily from one place to the other, which is a great way of eluding some of the parking problems and also eliminating some of the greenhouse gases. But I also think that, and you've mentioned it just briefly, Joe, I really think that public transportation to Cupertino is a huge elephant in the room that nobody thinks about. Because we don't have maybe quite enough power or control over the situation, but I think it's really important for us to look out those 25 years or those 40 years and come up with a way of integrating Cupertino into the rest of Silicon Valley through public transportation, which will eliminate a lot of the issues that we have regarding people living near their jobs or not. And so related to that, if we have people living near their jobs, chances are they still have a second car that is going to all the schools to drop off all the kids and take them to all their events. So you don't really necessarily eliminate all the traffic problems by having people come and live near their jobs. You've got a lot of other driving going on in each household beyond just getting to work and back. I wanted to also mention that one of the things that that traffic is doing to Cupertino is, because of the block of traffic at rush hour on 85 and 280, we have a lot of traffic on Saratoga, Sunnyvale, De Anza. We have a lot of traffic on Stevens Creek, and there are people that are just passing through the city. They aren't living there. They're just trying to get off the congested roads and congest our roads to get where they're actually trying to go. Maybe it's Saratoga or San Jose. Now, some of those people might be able to stop at a really nice restaurant on their way home and alleviate some of that ugly driving in Cupertino if we have great restaurants, if we have great parking. So the idea of having more restaurants in Vallco, to me, sounds like a very good idea to encourage people. Maybe they're leaving work at Apple, they can walk to a restaurant, have their dinner, before they get in the car to go home. Things like that, could work in our favor and could bring in tax dollars. In addition, I feel that the city needs to be offering something to everybody at every age level in our community. We don't have enough for seniors. We don't have enough for what I call juniors. It's the adults that are just becoming adults. They're the higher end of the teenagers and the 20s. They really want something exciting in their lives, and Cupertino really doesn't offer it, not anything to speak of at all. So I think that we could be a lot more, look for a way to really encourage people to live where they work by offering things that will be exciting to the kids who've grown up here, and also to the young people who are taking jobs at Apple and other places around. Vallco has the opportunity to offer some of those things. I mean, it's got a place. So now we have to come up with the ideas. We have to come up with the people who want to implement the ideas and the money to do it. But I think that Vallco, to make it too much business, too much office space, too much hotel, too much residence, and not enough community functions, would be missing a really great opportunity. And something else I think is really obvious is one of the reasons that Cupertino Village was so successful is because shops from a particular set of ethnic groups were put up and really drew people from that ethnic group, and that spoke to those people. It was the kind of shopping they wanted to do, it was the kind of eating they wanted to do. Well, we have more than one ethnic group in Cupertino, and we could try to encourage similar type of shopping and eating and groceries and that kind of thing for the other major ethnic group in our city, and that's not happened. I don't really know why not. So entertainment for both major ethnic groups. Why isn't that happening? Why don't we have movies at the AMC that attract people who come from other cultures, and much more in the way of foreign films, much more in the way of specifically films for the people who live in the community, with what they watch at home. And that brings up the fact that the internet is now part of our problem. It's a solution for many people, but people don't shop in stores as much because they're shopping on the internet. People don't entertain themselves at the theater as much because they're entertaining themselves in their own homes. So we have to find things that I guess offer people a getaway from home, where it's worth leaving home to go do something. It has to be, I think, entertaining, and it has to be very pleasant, excellent. We really need to reach that level of excellence where the plants aren't plastic, and perhaps the walking is outdoors with trees around, and beautiful decorations and beautiful scenery.
Thank you, Joe. Your time is up.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Joe. Actually, we are going to have a Q&A session, so we're going to invite Joey and Joyce to read the questions from our audience and have our panelists to answer. But you can also, stress on which one you would like to hear. No, the microphone is here. Yes. Actually, Joe, have you ever thought about any, particular entertainment for senior, for young, for youth, have you ever
come up with an idea of what they would like? Mm-hmm. No, but I'll pull my dog.
Well, our community group was actually thinking of maybe making some high-tech hub. For example, allowing Google in a Google car. Mm-hmm. A self-driving car. Why not drive it around our mall?
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's hear the questions from the audience. Joey, please.
Yes, this question is from Mr. Jeff Paulson, and the question is, what would you think of a high-rise vertical forest like the one being built in Milan, Italy? So it's like a, sorry.
Yes, you got the question?
Have you got a question?
Yes, yes.
What?
Like a vertical forest, like a high-rise building that's being built.
So, maybe a related issue and a first step would be if you could see the mall from the freeway. One of the reasons I shop at Almaden at Best Buy is because I know it's there And you could not see, unless you live in Cupertino, you would not know that there's a Sears or Macy's or Penny's at Vallco. So although we love our trees, I think we might want to consider getting visibility one way or the other, whether it's high-rise or whatever, but it may be an ingredient of success to have people driving by, as was suggested, come and be customers in Cupertino. Right now, perhaps the 58,000 people of Cupertino aren't enough to have a vital mall. And we might want to invite some neighbors in, but right now they have no idea what we have at the mall. I think the theaters, the ice rink, those kind of things, the bowling alley, I think could very well have appeal outside of our community if people knew they were here. And maybe a bit of high-rise, maybe at least high-rise signs would be part of that solution. Cupertino, the people of Cupertino have a limit on what high-rise is acceptable. I think it's somewhere around 4 stories, where at which point we just feel like it doesn't fit, and we have to listen to that message. I don't hear it changing much yet, but anyway, we could start by taking the blinders off the current mall.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Another question is, would it be possible to have a church occupy part of the multi-use building of that project?
Yes. Richard, would you like to continue?
Well, I'll continue a little bit. That's a matter of zoning. I don't see why not. I mean, I think we see a very multicultural city. I think it's one of our strengths. You know, people worry about it. I don't worry about it. I think it's a strength that we have people from all over the world, from different ethnic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different economic backgrounds. You know, I think we should accommodate and welcome everybody. So I would be very reluctant to have zoning that would exclude any kind of use of the property.
Okay. Okay, let's continue our question, and please also mention the name of the person.
Yeah. Oh, the previous question was from the same person.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And this question is from Liang Si, and it's asking about the revenue and the cost of the project, and how much can the city collect from housing, office, retail space in general? And would the tax and other fees that the city collects cover the costs such as utility, school, and traffic?
Yes. Who's going to say that?
Unfortunately, if you put a microphone in my hand, it's
yeah, Rob, you want to answer? Oh, yeah, you can. Okay,
So I'll make a few general comments, and we'll see. But I think you can expect that the developer has to pay his way, has to pay his costs. These costs should not come out of the pockets of residents. The deal, though, is that we have to then allow him to have a project that he at least breaks even on. You have to give a little bit for that. You know, the office space that he wants, I don't think has a tremendous benefit for us. A little bit in economic development, because we're so dependent on Apple now. So economic diversity would be good for us, but most of that is not so good for us. But if that's what he needs in order to invest in good infrastructure and bring the kind of retail that you're all talking about that we want, there has to be some give and take. And so in the end, I think if we get this spirit of cooperating with the development and with the plan, I think it's reasonable to expect the developer pays all the costs the city would incur.
Just speaking in general, and I think Hung Wei really hit it good, is that I think that we should not be calling these folks developers. I mean, they're really property owners, and there is private property rights. I think that is all market driven. If folks want to see more retail, they'll give us more retail. If they want to see more restaurants, they'll give us more restaurants. And this is a time where the community can give us that input, and we can pass it along to the property owner. If we treat the property owner good, they will treat the community good. when you present an application to the city, you have to pay park fees to create either a new park or enhance a park. We have Ben Liao, who's from the Cupertino School District, and Hung Wei from the Fremont Union High School District, and there's also school fees that you have to pay. There's also other fees from sewer to water to roads. When Apple came before us, they have committed to us to a study to enhance the Wolf Road interchange, and the ideas that you brought up regarding walkability, bicyclability, to connect Cupertino Village and the Apple campus to with Vallco Mall and Main Street is another opportunities. So all of these things that you bring together will be brought forward. And also regarding that, is it going to be a free lunch for this new property owner? No, it won't. And this property owner, Stanley Hill Property, has a number of success stories from Cupertino Village, from the Whole Foods. They have developed many office buildings and shopping centers, not only in Cupertino, but in the Bay Area. And we're really happy to have them here. And I see this as a opportunity versus a challenge. And as Hung Wei said, that we want to work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hung, yes, Rod.
Could I add something? So
Sure.
I really appreciate what Richard said. And, I think I also appreciate what Joan said in thinking about, what are the benefits to the community in all of this, and how come we don't seem to have the right retail that's attractive anymore. So when you go do a new project and you get to rethink, retailers get to rethink the idea of an attractive new space. Maybe it's outdoors, it's attractive, maybe it looks like Santana Row to you, or maybe it looks like something else. But just to cite the example of Main Street, which is, again, the same developer coming in 2015, completing what will hopefully and looks to be a very successful development. Here's a list of the restaurants that are going in that may be attractive, that I would consider to have high benefit to the community. The Lazy Dog, which is inspired by a Jackson Hole ski resort lodge. Eureka, which will offer American food and craft beers. Life, offering fresh vegan and other entrees. Meat Fresh, which is a Taiwanese dessert maker, and Panino Gusto out of Milan. So these are the kind of retailers that are coming in to that 18 acres that we are looking forward to calling Main Street, with a town center that will give us life well into the evening, and to the point of wanting to create some fun in Cupertino and have some nightlife. We did our best to ensure that the folks that are going to live in the apartments, including the lofts there, recognize that square could be operated until late at night, and those eating establishments will facilitate those coming into town at midnight or 1 a.m. And I'd also note on the other side of town that Paul and Eddie's has undergone a great resurgence. It used to be this sleepy dive that now is attracting the young set, folks from Apple who will diffuse their own commute by hanging out at Paul and Eddie's for an hour or two after they finish their jobs and before they go home. So I could offer those thoughts. On community benefits, more generally, I do think today there are some things that are just plain wrong in state law. There's a law called SB 50, which governs school impact fees. All across the state, those fees are the same. And based on the costs that our schools have, I estimate, in working with our school superintendents, that those cover only 20% or thereabouts of the full cost of having facilities. So when we build or we entitle construction of housing, as we must, and we place the housing element as we just have in our city for the next 8 years, we are really not getting out of the construction of those enough money to offset the students who are coming in as a result of those developments. So you may have heard me talk in that first week of December in our 2 back-to-back meetings about the idea of community benefits calculated on, for those who want to build higher than 45 feet, entering voluntarily into a development agreement with the city that then would allow us to collect monies that could be given to the schools to fill in and make schools whole as we do expand our residential base. And we can debate whether we want more height in certain locations, but to the extent we do, I'm firmly in the camp of thinking, you know, when folks pay 30 to 40% premium to live in Cupertino versus some other local communities because our schools are so great, we ought to be sure our schools are made whole when we build, when we construct, so that we can ensure that our schools remain great. And facilities, along with all the burden costs, the costs of land acquisition. Fremont Union recently lost acquisition to a private school on a site in Sunnyvale. They paid 2.5 times market rate. That's how valuable land is here, even for these school applications. We need to think about how, as we go forward, we make our schools whole as we're building. We need to think about transportation, which I can address later.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's come into the next question.
The next question is from Jane Diogen. And the question is, the mayor has mentioned about the dying malls, and the PBS point was that less expensive malls are failing because the middle class is failing. So how will this plan create middle class housing and their schooling, particularly for the middle class?
You got the question?
I do. You know, there's not much to do about the fact that it's expensive to live in Silicon Valley. We do have below market rate housing programs across our region. In Cupertino, we have one that extracts quite a bit from developers. In a multifamily housing, we ask developers to set aside 15% of the units for below market rate purposes. And we have a system that awards points for public servants, such as teachers and firefighters and police and other public employees, to have priority on that housing. If you start here as a teacher, you might make $60,000 a year, and you might, in many other parts of the country, even parts of the state, think that you're part of the middle class. But gosh, $60,000 a year here, I don't know how you make ends meet. So it is a very difficult problem. And what we can do under city programs is do these set-asides for below market rate housing, and give preference to those folks who are, again, helping our kids grow up.
I want to add to what the mayor says, well, to something dear to both Rich and I. Yes, our city of Cupertino can do a better job in Silicon Valley because for folks who cannot afford to live in the valley, we should try even harder to give incentives to private property owners that we would like to have some below market rate housing. And I think the group that is really in need is really senior citizens. As empty nesters are going out, they don't need such a large home. They can actually sell and make a profit, but they still want to live in our community, what we call Cupertino. And I believe that if we can incentivize and build more senior housing, more affordable housing for folks who are either police officers or fire people, instead of having them commute an hour or 2 hours away, and partnership like with West Valley Community Service or other groups, or even teachers as well too, because it is just getting very, very expensive to live here in the valley. And with the rental market, because of a certain law in California that's taken away, we can't even provide below market rate housing for our rental units, except only for our for sale housing. So I think that yes, if we as a council need to do a better job, it's definitely on our below market rate housing, and especially toward seniors.
Lobby the legislature to fix Palmer, which is the decision he's referring to. So for new apartments, we have no ability to exact any consideration for below market rate housing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think the issue. So I've worked a lot on below market rate housing. I've been on the Housing Trust Fund board. I've worked at WVCS here. Was the former president. So I've been involved in a lot. But I think the core issue, and I'm going to challenge our city council in Cupertino and our staff, is to come up with the formulas that make it so that additional housing units aren't considered negative by every existing resident. So you've got to figure out, as Rod started to go into, what is the actual cost of bringing in another job or another resident here, and how's it going to be paid for in the schools and the infrastructure? Because right now the community rejects additional housing because either they don't understand, or more likely we haven't correctly assessed the costs, the entire cost of bringing in another resident to Cupertino. So I think that's what we have to figure out, how to make it not a negative. And once we figure out the cost of school impact, the cost of infrastructure, then we can begin to go back to the property developers and get this funded properly so that we think of it as an asset, not as a negative. The whole community goes absolutely crazy when you talk about adding more housing right now. And that's the problem to solve. The fact is, we have the middle class problem because the upper class folks are buying everything. They buy up all the middle class stuff. There is nothing left. I used to have my business here. I couldn't afford to have my business here anymore because Apple raised the cost per square foot of commercial space here. You know, it was $4.40. I had to move my business down to Campbell. It's just that that upper stack comes down and buys up everything in the middle. So I think we have to address the whole problem of how do you make adding housing an asset to the community instead of at least a perceived big negative.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And that's as a startup in Silicon Valley, innovation is our DNA. It's inside our blood. What is innovation?
Very confident.
It's a way of thinking, it's a philosophy, it's a mindset. It's very closely related to leadership.
For me, it's really about finding the right fit between the product and the market.
Have a strong technology position, a strong market impact.
Innovation can be an idea, can be a product, can be a service, or can be a thinking. It can be everything, out-of-box thinking, not limited to your background, to the past. Welcome to Innovation Dialogue. I'm Diana Dane, and today we are going to talk about Cloud Festival. Today we have Carrie Davis, and she's here to share her story, which is so inspiring. What we are doing here is to summarize, bring out the point, and give a good presentation. Help people to bring out their idea to the whole world.
It's very important to be able to spot human talent and to be a good leader.
More importantly, it's how our corporate and partners perceive the value that's come out of the event.
It was all about seizing the opportunity rather than looking at the world as a set of problems.
I want to change the paradigm of angel investing being local. I want all of us to think global and to look at great opportunities in Asia or Europe, wherever it is in the world.
Come to Ding Ding TV. Let us work together to bring out your idea to share with the whole world.